Welcome everyone. I'm Mikus, CEO of Giraffe 360. Really excited to have you all joining to our webinar series. This is our fifth webinar, and today we want to talk about social media, how the growing role of social media of creating personal brand for real estate agents and the role in property discovery. To help me unpack this topic, we have assembled amazing crew for you. Our CCO, Samy Jeffries, joining. Hey Samy, how are you doing?
Hello, Mikus. Very well. Excited to be here as always. And I think such a fantastic topic, which definitely deserves a couple of fantastic guests. So I'm very excited for today's webinar.
Nice, but maybe you can go on and introduce our other guests for today.
100%. So we've had some great feedback in the past about bringing in some of Giraffe 360's internal team who build and design these features. And so today, Arturs will walk us through one of our newest releases, the 3D floor plan inside our Listing Spotlight platform. Arturs, hello. Nice to have you here today. How are we?
Hi, nice to be here.
Good stuff. And we are also honoured to have Tammy DeWolfe, a top realtor from Massachusetts, who's built a phenomenal social media presence and is using it to drive success. And also Eddie from DeWolfe Digital Home Services. Eddie provides amazing content to drive agent strategy. Hello, Tammy and Eddie. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are we? How is Massachusetts?
It's sunny.
Very good. We're into fall now.
Oh, really? I'm sure the weather's a lot better than here in Manchester. Brilliant. And Tammy and Eddie were kind enough to sit down with us recently for an interview. And so we will have some questions at the end of the webinar, which we will run through, and you'll have the opportunity to ask some questions for Tammy and Eddie. So as you go through today, just drop some questions into our slider. But yes, Mikus, over to you to start getting into the meat in this webinar.
Thank you, Samy. So the agenda for today is we will split it in four parts. We'll open up with an industry news, what has been the main trends, where we all moving towards to. Then Tammy's and Eddie's cut down interview version, and we're gonna then switch gears and speak about Spotlight, our real estate marketing automation platform, where we have the new product features released. One of them, Arturs is going to break down in detail, is the new 3D model into the website. And last but definitely not least, the Giraffe PRO Camera announcements. The Pro Camera is going live, but we'll hold off to that news until we reach the end. So, but let's start with we already mentioned these things on one of the previous webinars, but I think this is a good 10,000 feet perspective on how the industry is changing. So one of the main things what's happening is that despite what's happening with the technology, the buyers' generations has leaped, and we are now into the millennials becoming the biggest home buyers. Last year was the first year in decades when millennials were the biggest home buyers, and millennials introduced a new expectations and new requirements from what previously Gen X or baby boomers. I think tying it back to the real estate, there was a period in time where people were buying ads in the magazine, running radio shows, talking about real estate and building a brand, and now that all is moving to, or one of the biggest platform that all is moving to is social media. And when we look on the data, then on the discovery side, almost 500,000 properties every year gets discovered on the real estate, on the social media. What does that mean? That people, instead of going to the listing site, find that property scrolling Instagram. And that's equivalent of volume of all properties sold in Florida. And it's growing very rapidly, and we think that trend going to continue. And that's but the other side of the generational shift is, it seems like social media is becoming essential for also building that personal brand, because once people discover properties that specific agent posts and they get interested, they can start follow that agent and really kind of build their future clientele, how they also gonna win listings and be known in the market. And Samy, what do you see from your side on this?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting topic, and I know we've mentioned it in previous webinars, but we've always said it's about demand. But I think it is deeper than that. In a sense, it's almost Pavlovian, right? For millennials, this kind of immersive, interactive content is baked out into how we kind of consume information everywhere in life. We scroll, we tap, we expect depth and interactivity, and we do that in our own free time, never mind just kind of during buying journeys, all through social media. And so I think there is an obvious gap and kind of a canyon between how social media works and how people consume content and the property search process. And I think it's the status quo versus the digital experiences we're used to in other purchasing journeys. So I think it is kind of almost ingrained and baked now into the kind of the DNA of this generation to expect content, to expect immersive, and to kind of scroll and interact in a very, very different fashion to previous generations.
But maybe let's talk about the content. If you can go to that next slide, I found this baffling is the stark difference between what buyers demand and what today agents provide. And when we look on the buyers demand, those are data from surveys on how buyers expect to access or experience properties online, and that goes to social media, that goes to the listing portals. And almost 75% of buyers wants to see video, almost 70% wants to see floor plan, almost 60% wants to see some kind of a 3D virtual tour experience. But then we look on the supply side, the market data, less than 10% of listings get a video, less than 20% gets floor plan, and less than 10% gets some kind of a 3D virtual tour presentation. And like looking on this data makes me think that either suppliers has completely missed the mark of what the consumer wants, or there's big shift coming, or there has been some technological or other reasons. Maybe it's just cost that hasn't allowed the consumer expectation be closer to what the supplier does. And yeah, Samy, do you have a take? What's causing this? Either what's causing this problem, or what do you see from the agents who use the social media and use these rich contents?
Yeah, I think it's something really stood out for me. Kind of when you look at those agents, and obviously what we're not saying here is that kind of diversity of content is the only factor in success, but it's one of the critical under the hood components for sure. If you look at these small percentage of agents who are actually delivering that full content suite, who are delivering across multiple channels, not just kind of the legacy channels, but who have consistency in social media, in YouTube, etc., you'll almost always find inside those the top performers in the market, the ones that are consistently creating, and as a result, they control a bigger share of the business. And as I say, it's not the only factor, but it is definitely something that you see consistently across the highest performing agents in any region. And so I think it's very important that we highlight this gap, and we've spoke about it in the past, but that gap, seems to be having real world results for agents who are capitalizing on their knowledge of the industry and the changing kind of buyer dynamics.
In a sense, what you're saying is, even though it's a small adoption of agents that actually focus on consumer and service the consumer in a higher quality, let's maybe call it like that, but that. It's maybe a small percentage, but that's very that's a big market share, because these are the successful agents per se. Like you see the industry leaders, the zip code leaders, they are in that small 9, 10, 15% category as their default operating approach to the marketing.
100%.
And then I think the market setup is very already favorable for a photographer to step in and treat this problem as an opportunity. Because when we look on the market outline, 60% of agents always goes for a media partner. 23% frequently does that, and less than 20% never wants to use a media partner. So you're looking on 80% of listings. And if there are, and this is agent category, so if there are 4 million listings sold a year, you could be looking on that photographer or some kind of a media partner probably touches more than 3 million properties every year in America. But this number I find extremely bothering, or as a great opportunity for the industry, both from Giraffe perspective and both for the photographer side, is that today 70% of listings only gets photography. So only 70% of photographers only do photography, and that doesn't correlate with consumer expectation. Kind of makes me ask, who's at fault here? Is it the photographer who doesn't expand and provide full media service to the agent, or it's the agent who doesn't request that? And if you would need to dish out the blame pie, and it's a bit like I'm being cheeky here, Samy, but if you need to kind of pick a side, where do you think where do you think bucket falls?
You've asked me this question in the past, and this isn't just like a diplomatic answer for the sake of being diplomatic, but I think it's very much like a chicken and egg situation. From our 360 perspective, the market's clearly showing its requirements. And at the end of the day, the market will dictate who wins. And I don't know exactly why it's kind of not become the market norm, but what we do know for sure is that the savviest agents in real estate media partners are already capitalizing on this, right? The ones who are giving consumers what engage them. And if the agent or photographer isn't set up to deliver this, that they're definitely leaving business on the table. So for media partners, giving agents the variety to work with is like stocking up, a restaurant's fridge or pantry. And in the same way, the agent, who is like the chef in this weird analogy, can't expect results in their restaurant if they're only targeting buyers and sellers with bland food and kind of legacy content. So I think it's everybody. I think it's the entire market hasn't yet caught up with the buyer's demands, and it's going to take for people to start to understand it and to start to kind of deep dive and understand why some agents are kind of performing higher than others, why some media partners are performing higher than others, and start to dissect what that means. And I think we will find 100% that a large part of that is the consistency of content and the posting across multiple channels. Those that have those social media channels are absolutely flying in comparison. So yeah, it's a diplomatic answer, Mikus, but yeah, it's what I believe to be the truth.
I will not pick a side as well if you would reverse the question to me.
And so next up, I had the amazing pleasure of sitting down with Tammy and Eddie. We dug into what it really takes to be a successful realtor and a media partner today. And what I really found was that synergy between their two worlds has created, separate but flourishing businesses. And so what you're about to see here is a highlight reel from a longer, super informative and interesting conversation. And we will post that full interview afterwards, which I would recommend everybody goes and watches. There's some real gems in there. And as you saw, Tammy and Eddie are also here live with us today. So as you're watching, make sure to drop your questions, and they'll be here at the end to answer those questions directly. So without further ado, let's jump into the interview.
Media is a huge part of social media, right? So media meaning still photos, video, floor plans, 3D tours, all of that. It makes such a big difference when you're showcasing a property. So recently I was contacted by a social media follower that had missed out on another property here in Westwood, Massachusetts. And they called me, asked me if I could help them. They'd been searching for 2 years looking for a house, and they told me specifically what house they missed out on, and I found them a house. They fell in love with it. They're actually closing next week. She saw a video that I posted about a property. That resonated with her. It was in her price range, and therefore she contacted me. So that's happened a couple times in the last month where social media followers have reached out to me to help them find a house or just simply help them list a house. Showing your personality, showing videos of properties, and giving them a tour of an inside of a property, it just goes so much further than just a black and white advertisement on MLS, right? The more you give for a property, so floor plans, 3D tours, video, drone footage, still photos, that helps a buyer determine if they're going to come and see that property or not. And the more you can put out there on social media with specific hashtags, the better it is for you to actually move that property a little bit faster. When I go to a listing appointment, and if I get the listing that day, I will do a video as I'm walking from the property with the house in the background, just to say, hey, I just got this listing. Keep checking back in to, find out the latest on this listing here in Westwood or wherever. Or sometimes when I just going for the media appointment, getting all the photos and 3D tours and everything set up, I'll actually get on the video and then have them do a quick tour. I'll just speed through the house. It makes a big difference. People like seeing the raw version, and then they really love seeing the really fabulous real production of the video. Just recently also, a seller contacted me. She found me on the internet and checked out my social media sites and my websites, and she contacted me for a $1.6 million house, which is going to be selling in 3 weeks. It's very important to be consistent. I feel like every listing deserves the maximum that I can do for it. That's not just for high end. That's from, $350,000 to $5 million. They get everything. Still photos, 3D tour, video, drone footage. And if it's me introducing the property in the video, that's one thing. Sometimes I don't. It's just whatever that property kind of resonates, and that's how I go. But they get everything. I think it's crucial. Just recently, I had a listing. It was on the market for 5 days. There was 2 other condos in the same building that had been on the market for 3 months. I already have a contract. And it's because I do video, and it's because I have a working email and a working phone number, and I do floor plans and a 3D tour. So
And those other two, I called the other 2 listing agents to offer them a Giraffe 360 tour, and I never heard back from them. There's your proof in the pudding.
and I answer my phone.
The Giraffe tours. The Giraffe tours help sell properties.
The general buyer is probably looking at a property 10 to 15 times before they actually make an offer because they study it. And with those 3D tours, people are crazy about these things. They love like measuring between the oven and the refrigerator to the kitchen sink to make sure they have that perfect triangle. They love it. I don't think 10 to 15 times is too far off base because they're measuring things. They're calculating if there's a fireplace or will their dining room table fit. And then they finally come to an open house or they have a private showing. And sometimes they'll bring their tape measure with them to see if things fit. Online, I think they look anywhere from 10 to 15 times. And then maybe they come in person 1 time to 3 times.
Well, I think they've got to utilize all the tools that are out there. There's so many advancements. The Giraffe platform, obviously, doing the virtual tours, and I'm sure that technology will continue to evolve. At some point, you'll put on your glasses and you'll literally walk through the house from wherever you are in the world. I think it's really important to continue to stay up to date on the technology and utilizing that to the best of your ability, or hiring someone to do that if you're not tech savvy. A real estate business is like any other business. It's a sales business. As a realtor, if you're trying to pilot the plane, but you're also the person fixing the engines and cleaning up the trash after every flight, fueling the plane and ushering the people on board, then you're not focusing on building pipeline. You're not focusing on the clients that you have and closing more deals. So I think it's important to be able to outsource what you can't handle, have the experts handle things that you're not capable of, so that you're maximizing your time from the sales perspective.
Can I add to that? It's really important. One thing that I really believe in is staying in your lane. So doing what you do best, right? I love marketing properties. I have never, in the 20-some years that I've done this, I have never taken my own photos of any property. And I know that there's people out there that do the staging and they take their own photos and they use some app to do like the floor plans. I'd say stop right there. Do what you're best at. If that's helping buyer agents figure out what's the best price, stay in that lane. If you're really into marketing, then use all the tools that are out there, but hire a professional. It is a game changer to help you with your media, because taking a photo on your phone, it just does not compare to a professional photo.
How do you become invaluable to the community that you're serving? The more you can offer, the easier it is for them, the more likely they are to continue to use your company as their sole provider.
As a media provider, providing reels, just sold posts that you can just still pictures that you can just pop up, where somebody doesn't have to drop a photo into Canva and put sold on it and whatnot. Offering those services, I think, helps a beginner just get up and on social media faster.
In my dad's real estate company, we had a tagline at one point in time, which was "one stop in your home." And what that meant was you could go to the DeWolfe companies and you could get your insurance, you could get your mover, you could get everything. You could get your buyer's agent, your listing agent, everything that you needed to facilitate the sale of a home. As a media company, being able to provide that same concept to real estate agents is important. So Tammy talked about multiple things, and there are probably 15 things you could do across 10 different platforms. If you have a media provider that can do all of that for you versus doing some yourself and having 3 other companies do other pieces, it just makes everything in your life easier as an agent. Kind of that one-stop shop for all your media, I think, is something that will continue to grow from a media provider perspective. It streamlines the process for the agent, fewer people to talk to, and one source to go to kind of provide as much as possible.
You know, when I started this business 20-some years ago, that's all we did was still photos, right? And then we got into like floor plans. That was a big deal, right? And then finally video showed up. And now we have so many more tools to use. So for someone just starting out, maybe they just do still photos and a floor plan. until they get their, groove, right? To figure out what they really like. Anything beyond still photos is a game changer. Still photos, it's really basic, So that's why I'm saying anything that you can do beyond that is really a game changer. You're leveling up your business in one huge step.
Amazing. So yeah, as I mentioned, that whole interview, Uncut, is available to watch on YouTube, or will be posted very shortly across our social media. And because one of the things I really saw in there, and I know it kind of lands in terms of the title of today's webinar, is Social Media or Die. And Tammy gave their multiple real world examples of exactly how her strategy of hitting, yes, the MLS, yes, the listing portals, the really, really vital, important parts of the journey, but actually moving and diversifying early, kind of like identifying these trends, has had real world impacts on her business. She mentioned a couple of times the fact that she's winning listings. She mentioned a couple of times in the full interview as well that when somebody is on their home search process, they're much more comfortable doing so on social media. I mentioned this in the past. I found my home via socials, just I think on a bus journey or a train journey. But the difference for Tammy in these scenarios is that once somebody has gone to Tammy's socials and has seen a house that they like, regardless of whether that house is sold or not, they're now in Tammy's ecosystem. They now see Tammy's brand and the value that Tammy could provide in the buying process and the selling process. And that's where I think that stark contrast is with the legacy methods. You're kind of you see a house, it sells, you go back, and all of that work that the agent has done to build up their brand to some degree is kind of lost, right? Because you go back to that wider home search journey on the legacy platforms where it's just a database of homes and you scroll through those. But Tammy is a real world example of how bringing people into your ecosystem and delivering your brand, your message, and kind of hitting them with, what it used to be a rule of 3 times you need to see a product in real estate seems to be 15 times. She can really capitalize on that and grow her business. And she's reducing days on market with content, but she's also bringing in buyer and seller leads. And I think, yeah, it's just an amazing testament to the power of social media. Mikus, what were your thoughts on the interview?
Yeah, I 100% agree, and it's good to hear from Tammy's mouth these examples. I have a friend here in Miami who followed a real estate agent that posts homes in the neighborhood they were looking for homes, and just like follows because they post properties in the area. And when they decided to sell their home, where did they went to? They went to this agent that they've been following that posts the homes. So this agent suddenly got kind of two deals in the one go. It can sell a home and then find a home for this family. And I think you see these anecdotes all around. I would say the competition in that social media category is still early. So I think as the competition grow, the challenges to stand out in the channel gonna grow as well. But today it's actually very, very, I would say it's easy to become a brand name in your local area.
Yeah, and as Tammy said, it takes consistency, and you can't post the same thing over and over again, right? If you just post one video and you think that that's going to kind of make you go viral or build a social media following, it's not going to. And if you post consistently the same content, that's not going to. And that's where it was amazing to hear from Eddie's perspective. Eddie comes from, if you watch the full interview, comes from, a family of real estate professionals. And Eddie had an amazing analogy in the full interview, which was basically thinking about like the whole journey as an aeroplane, right? And if the realtor is the pilot, then the real estate media partner is kind of the engineer. They're fixing everything. And Tammy made a really good point. She said, let the people who know what they're doing do what they do. And so for Eddie, he saw a real powerful opportunity to work with realtors by providing all of those ingredients that they need to build out their kind of long and complex social media strategies, their Google strategies, their email, their text, WhatsApp, all that type of stuff. And he's really there to go in to provide like an excellent service to the clients. That's a big part of how he's built his business. But also the diversity of the content that he provides for the agents means that they can then show up on every listing, not just the flagship listing, but on every single listing with a diversity of content, with a full social media strategy, without taking up too much of that agent's time to generate. So yeah, it was really amazing to see, and I would definitely recommend to anybody to go and watch that interview in full on our socials. Changing tune slightly, so off the back of that, another thing that stood out to me wasn't just how critical the social media presence is for agents and the impact it has on kind of capturing and owning seller and buyer leads long term, the impact of content on days on market, and the impact it has on their scale and market share. But what I kind of feel, and kind of the anxiety that I would feel if I was watching that, was the pressure is on. Like, as I mentioned earlier, all of this needs ingredients, and that's diversity of content, and that's the consistency required to deliver that full suite for every property. Tammy said, regardless of a $300,000 home or $1 million+ listing, she's providing that same kind of diversity of content and that full marketing suite. But this is where the roadblock is, right? Historically, producing that volume and variety of assets has been cumbersome and expensive. And to cover everything properly, agents are looking at 12 or more different services, and the total cost with that can run, as you can see on screen here, up to $5,000 per listing. And that's before you've even got into the complexity of adding social media manager to your resume as an agent.
And if I can add to that sentiment, and that cost can increase tenfold if you're working in a luxury segment. But I think from Tammy's interview, to build a brand and have a following, you need every listing that the agent works with needs a marketing, needs wide variety of content, needs video presentations, needs some kind of a floor plan representations, needs its own website, because it doesn't work if you kind of pre-select just like one special listing that suddenly are gonna go all in. Where I think lots of this mindset today is in the industry, that like only are gonna do it for special properties, but then you're losing out on this true opportunity, because it's almost impossible to go viral with a single listing, like and capture the attention there. And so I think operationally and just cost-wise, this becomes a big hurdle, and we're kind of like preaching our own tune, because that's what we are solving on one of the goals. But it's a fundamental issue that I think lots of people would want to be more advanced, but just like cost and operational complexity doesn't allow it. But please continue, Samy.
100%, yeah. And so what we did as a part of the exercise of preparing for today's webinar was looked at some of the average costs across the market. And yes, like obviously these numbers can vary massively by region. It might be cheaper, it might be, more expensive. You might find that you get bundles for some, but whichever way you break it down, it's a long and expensive list, which covers, kind of everything from indoor drones to email, social media management tools and services. And like you said, Mikus, to deliver this, an agent either needed to juggle multiple providers, or the work would end up being dominated by large agencies with deep resources. And so for a media partner, that's meant that a lot of people are only getting a very small slice of the pie, the photography, but not the drone, etc., as they would need like tons of equipment, more skill sets than any individual could realistically specialize in. And for agents, again, it's a scheduling and cost nightmare. And that's why up until now, I think delivering that full suite of content on every listing has to some degree been out of reach. And bridging this gap has been our goal at Giraffe 360, right? We've built our product, especially our Pro line, around helping property professionals respond to the shifts happening in the industry. And that's why we aim to build and have built a single fully integrated platform, from the advanced capture hardware to the AI pipeline that's automatically generating all the property marketing assets, and then Listing Spotlight, our multi-channel campaign tool that puts that content straight in front of the buyers on multiple platforms. So agents aren't providing and juggling multiple, skill sets, multiple providers. Everything you need to market a listing at the highest level possible comes from one simple capture, covering everything from privatized and edited HDR images, G-Splat generated indoor drone videos, 2 and 3D floor plans, which we'll go through later, all the way through to one of the most complex elements of a modern agent's role, which is campaign management. What do you do with that content once it's been generated for an agent? And so over to you, Mikus, for a little word about our Listing Spotlight platform.
Yeah, I think then Listing Spotlight, what you spoke about is the reason why we created it. We can leverage the data and the content created from a scan, then edited in the content studio to run automate campaigns, and that's how we are looking on the Spotlight. We can make it seamless, integrated, and we actually hold an extreme leverage, because we have the property, we have the knowledge of the property. But as in a simple example, from the GPS data, we know the address of the property. Then we have the 3D map of it. We have photography, and we can use them to augment and run campaigns. And when we think about real estate marketing, lots of agents really think from showing their face perspective, and there is value in that, kind of being in front of camera and becoming personable. But the ultimate product for every agent is their property, and their job is packaging property. And this is where Giraffe Spotlight comes in extremely well, to packaging every listing in a beautiful marketing and being able to deliver it on a single on literally every platform you wanna run it on. But Samy, if you switch slides there. A bit on the market side again. When we speak with the agents, 80% want to grow their business using social media. Almost 50% of agents actually see that social media brings them high quality leads. As I spoke in my personal anecdote experience with my friend, and specifically single listing websites, which we treat as part of a broader marketing suite, we see that there's a 3x higher conversion rate than just using branded websites or part of a big agency kind of search platform. And the market reality again is starkly different. Maybe the gap here is not as big as in media production, but I think the gap is still huge. Less than 50% of agents are confident in their ability to actually do social media, and Tammy is exception. And you see these agents across the board where people are talented and actually can go and do it. And it sounds easy when you listen to Tammy, I apologize. But then, like when we scale it out to the market, I think it's not everyone has that ability to be media creator and be in front of the camera. So I think that's kind of holding back a lot of adoption there. And less than 30% of agents actually use some kind of a social media management tool. And if you don't use a tool, that's straight away a kind of a yellow flag that it's not consistent, it's not thought out, it's not scheduled. It's more like a one-off posting, which is anybody who's done it knows it's very slow, very clumsy, doesn't really work. And specifically on the websites, the last number I want to mention is that less than 10% of agents actually build a dedicated website, and which is surprising, seeing how much better the websites perform. And then switching back to the Spotlight.
Mikus,
Yep.
just to cut in quickly. So thinking about, obviously, the majority of today's audience and the audience for our kind of webinar series in general is like real estate media providers, photographers. Obviously, there are a few realtors in there as well. But why do you think this is relevant to like a media partner? Because surely this is an agent's problem now to be kind of generating their social media pipeline. So yeah, just kind of leading question, but yeah.
My opinion is that it's an opportunity for a photographer to rebrand as a media partner. And one of the services is to offer social media service, or to using Giraffe platform to make it easy. Again, I'm using Tammy's words here, making it easy for the agent, because it's an integrated platform, and a photographer cannot create all the contents, make contents acceptable for the agent, and even create campaigns and then allow agent to run campaigns. I just think the pie is not big enough for too many suppliers to sit in that transaction. And I would say every agent should have one partner that handles media and marketing. I think is a clear opportunity, because if you have like two people, one doing media, one doing marketing, it becomes too disconnected. It just doesn't work well in real life. Even in Giraffe's example, we've learned that if you want to run social media well, you want to also like it. Half of that is creating content, and so you want to kind of under a single branch or one expert, one advisor, one platform is how it's gonna work better. I think superstars in the industry doesn't necessarily need one platform. They can carry without. They can use multiple tools, and it's people who have like specific talent or skill in this sector. But when you generalize to the market, I think that you want to massively simplify the process. And so I answer to your question, Samy, is I think it's an opportunity for photographers to become more important.
Amazing.
But then on the Spotlight, so Listing Spotlight has three main features. What it's an AI platform that enables property marketing from a single workflow. So, and there are three main features are social media posts and campaigns. Then we have a single property website, and we also run email marketings and other campaigns. So it's all created automatically using our AI underlying platform, and it sits in this platform called Spotlight that both photographer can access it and then give an access for the agent. And it kind of going to come down to our partners to decide how do you want to do it. Do you want to do it as a full service for your client, or give them access to run it for themselves? Maybe and maybe that's kind of, I think we've spoken enough now about the problem and the concept. Maybe we can actually switch gears and look on the product. So this is the new campaign scheduler. It's a very important release for the Spotlight. We released Spotlight, if I'm not mistaken, late May, but it was more single posts, and I think it's very important that we now have a campaign scheduler, because I think the consistency is a huge issue. And if you think about running social media and building a long-term impact through this channel, it's all about consistency, and it's very hard when it's also single post based kind of infrastructure. But maybe Samy, you can break down better what's in the campaign window and how does that all work together.
100%. Yeah. So as you said, historically, like an agent, even with our platform, we need to go in and kind of create those as standalone pieces of content and then ship them out to the different portals and platforms. So with the kind of campaign and schedule, it's taken the complexity out of the planning process for agents. They can go in, they can add a few pieces of key information, property data, if they've got an open house, the open house date, and then our system will then take all of that content, kind of that diverse content that we've generated on the Giraffe 360 side, and then turn that into a campaign with suggested dates and times. And then as we just saw on screen there, coming very soon, we will also have the ability for them to automate the posting process as well. So syncing in with email, syncing in with Meta and kind of the social media platforms. So I think this is a really big step in the process of kind of like of releasing and continuing to diversify and increase the efficacy of the listing Spotlight platform. So I'm very excited for that scheduling tool to go live, and I think
just the three quick bullet points that I want to add. On the campaign scheduler, you get a month worth of content generated in the campaign. All the posts are adapted to be based on the channel's best performing standards. So if it's a story in Instagram, it's the content is formatted, and one of the important things that we do in the Spotlight is formatting content to fit different channels, because it's again, anyone who's done it, upload on Instagram, you need squared video, then upload on Meta, Facebook platform, you need different layout, then YouTube different layout. Like it's a complete nightmare always to format according to the platform, and having it all centralized just like removes so much hassle for everyone. And then we just launched, or it's launching right now, the Meta integration. So the posting happens automatically to all to the Meta platform first, and we're gonna keep adding the integrations to other platforms as we go. But I guess that leads us to the next part of the Spotlight, and post on social media is the first step, but then audience you want to funnel as a seller, you want to funnel it somewhere, and we think about the website, a single listing website, as a hub, as an essential place where I sometimes call it all roads lead to Rome strategy, kind of that every platform, everything should always go back to the website, because that's where you can actually capture a lead and start engaging on the marketing level. If social media works for brand and exposure, then website is probably more sits in to actually capture on the seller side a lead that they can work with. And so maybe this is a great chance now, Arturs, for you to chip in and walk us through one of the new releases. We released Website Builder, and it's an AI build. We released it in the summer, and we just released this update where we published the new 3D floor plan. I love our 3D floor plan. I don't know, it's so amazing, just so eye-catching, so interactive, so easy to use, and so valuable. So I can just keep using adjectives to praise around it. But maybe Arturs, you can take us behind the scenes, how the 3D model works, how it's built, and kind of educate us a bit about it.
Yeah, of course, sure. I would be happy to share more about the thinking that goes behind this listing spotlight feature. So yeah, the three principles that we're using here to think about the website and the 3D model. So firstly, it's easy to share, as you mentioned before, social media. It's one link that everything funnels to. Secondly, it's designed for mobile. I mean, obviously social media is primarily used on mobile, and well, the stats show it as well. We see 70% of the visits for the websites are on mobile. But thirdly, and I guess more importantly, at least from my side, it's we're thinking about the website as being driven by immersive features, and 3D is sort of the crux of it. So if we go forward, then the thinking is that 2D is not enough, and if we go even further, then static won't cut it as well. So we're looking at something that's that moves, something that we can show spatial data for, something that's visually stimulating. But to maybe take a step back, how do we get there? We start with property capture, right? So every property gets captured with a camera. From the capture, then we go to uploading the project, uploading all that data that we've collected, to then calculating the areas. Here we'll use machine learning algorithms to put everything together, and on top of that we apply visual sort of polish, right, so that everything's readable and clear. But now we're introducing a new dimension, and this is where the exciting part starts, I guess. So putting that third dimension now into the website, we get interaction, and the interaction features, delving deeper, again, go as follows. It's we can rotate the model, we can switch between the modes, the 2D and the 3D, and we can select floors and rooms as well, so isolating different areas of the property. Yeah, so the thinking behind this is maybe, again, explaining how we got here is this is really the first layer, and this is sort of exciting me as I'm speaking about it. So this is really the first layer as I see it. I think architects do this well when they do overlays. Taking an example from them, you put different layers of tracing paper on top of the main floor plan. So imagine having a layer for utilities, for furniture, for these different layers that you have in your property. Because essentially the problem isn't that the property isn't the issue isn't that the property doesn't have enough data. We have so much data that we have to think about how do we layer it and how do we present it in a structured and in a way that you can easily understand it. So yeah, imagine having these layers one on top of each other. Next to come up in these, if I can speak to the pipeline that's coming. Samy, if you jump to the next slide, then yeah, we have first-person view, so adding integration with virtual tours. We'll be doing sunpad simulation. So again, this layer of information on top of the existing floor plans, as well as enhanced model details. So thinking about furniture and other details that are in the property.
Yeah, absolutely love it. But actually, if we can hold on the previous slide, so we have the visual moving. Arturs, and I think when you first started the pitch, like a 3D model creation, I wasn't a big fan of it because I found the architectural models a bit boring. But I think what you and the team has really succeeded on the immersiveness, like how actually engaging it is. And do you have anything to share on what did you discover in building the model or making it exciting? Was there any kind of eureka's in the process of building it? Because I'm really clinging to this, that the architecture models have been around for decades, but most of them are not engaging, and I sometimes brand them a bit boring for an untrained eye. So, but there's nothing boring about how we have executed the 3D floor plan creation. Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, fair enough. I remember these comments from going through design iterations, and I think there's a lot to learn from architecture, right? As it's been around for a while, so I think taking input from all of that, it makes sense. I think the key difference here that we're looking at is that usually if you think about architecture, and let's say in a more modern sense, it might be CAD software or it might be digital. It's very complicated. So there's a learning curve for anyone who's looking at it or anyone who's trying to approach it from another angle. It's complicated, essentially. So I think the key challenge here has been, and I think it's we've succeeded at actually reaching the goal, is to simplify it. So architecture has these layers. Let's present them in a structured way. Let's get a really solid base that's interactive, easy to interact with, easy to understand, and we can build on top of it.
100%. And I think quick 2 bullet points additionally from my end, every project now that you scan, if you render the website, the model gets rendered automatically, and we already have I don't know how many, I'm blanking on how many total people have now created these floor plan models for their listings, but I think I saw the data that it's the second now most used feature onto our website, and when I looked on the data, the number one was still gallery at the top of the page, but then when you scroll further, the 3D model is catching people's attention. I'm not surprised. I kind of expected that interactive, immersive experiences hold users' attention and they start to engage with it, but I think it's already a proof that users already are voting. They're scrolling down to this section, and we're not showing for the audience here. We're not actually showing the full website view, but if you're gonna use the camera and create the website, you're gonna see this section where the models get created, and I think users are already voting. The other thing I just thought about that. It might actually get confusing because there's 3D virtual tours, which is a photorealistic environment, and then we have a 3D floor plan, which is a solid 3D model environment. I bet there will be some confusions in the future around what is virtual tour, I think, and what is 3D tour, because but it's probably good news that 3D immersive revolution, and I guess we should just umbrella under immersive content different styles of immersive and engaging media. Arturs, do you have any thoughts on it, or?
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's I definitely look at it as the base, and we can bridge different types of contents this way. Yeah,
definitely. So hope the digital gonna get more immersive, and where does that lead to is it ultimately comes down, the impact we have is the days on the market decreases. Back in the 80s, finding a home or selling a home took almost half a year, and mostly because of the technology, the days on the market tracking has gone down. And days on the market is public data, and you can go and check it. The bureaus have been tracking it for a long time. It's actually very interesting to see how technology has been impacting the home selling market, and I don't think we actually see that on a day-to-day basis, but we need to zoom out on a decade level to see that it's like dropping, there's a step change every decade in how the market functions, and I think we're now at the next forefront, because when we speak with our clients who obviously all Giraffe users have rich media content, use way more channels, way better online experience. We see from the surveys that they sell their homes 7 days faster than average real estate agent. And so I think we, as Giraffe, when we're building technology, when we're thinking about product, we're actually thinking about how do we impact that days on the market by easing up a consumer journey, making it more digital first real estate experience, and making that experience very quality is nowhere used the word, but something that's that the consumer really resonates on, and that's the impact we see on the market. And tying this back to the audience of our photographers here, is that's an opportunity for how you can pitch your service to a real estate agent. Kind of, if you work with me, your houses will sell faster. That's an incredibly strong pitch, and you can prove that through data that this is not marketing. Just like I just spoke when we showed the new 3D model, I just said how cool it is, how eye-catching it is, but it's not a gimmick or a toy. It has an impact on consumer journey, and maybe a single 3D model doesn't change the journey that much, but as we stack up this experience and as we focus to build up on a digital first experience, this is the proof. This is the proof. The days on the market is going down, and I bet there will be a future where it will take on average 14 days. And I think that's what's coming in the next 5 to 10 years. We're gonna get days on the market down to 2 weeks, and that's how quickly it will take to find your next dream home. But maybe let's switch gears, Samy. Let's talk about the releases that we've done and go back to what's already been released in the last 30 days.
Yeah, and I think as you said there, it's that stacking, isn't it? Like you look at these as individual components, but actually it's that plethora that is starting to kind of give the confidence to the consumer, I think is the real thing, isn't it? Because people have more agency because they have more access to information. And so the more you can give them, the quicker they will be to make that decision, and that decision they will make on their own. So for those who have watched our webinars before, you'll know that a big part of our commitment is essentially the rhythm that we keep. Every month we release meaningful upgrades. And so here, as always, is our roundup of what we released in the last 30 days. On the video side, we introduced a brand new editor, making it easier than ever for agents to cut polished clips straight from their captures. In photography, we added TV screen replacement, so empty black boxes now become vibrant shots. On our panoramas, we created adjustment sliders so that agents can fine-tune and control all of the contents that are powered by panoramas. So that's everything from the tour videos all the way through to the virtual tours and so on. And a much smarter automated shadow removal. So now every image is clean and consistent. And in Listing Spotlight, as we went through earlier, we have the 3D floor plans, which now sit directly inside the property website with an amazing roadmap. I love the sun paths, and this adds like a great layer of immersion for buyers. And again, on the Listing Spotlight, we have the management and scheduling tool as well. So tons over the last 30 days. It's amazing to see that pace that we continue to keep. And so now, Mikus, we are going to hand over to you very briefly. Before the Q&A session, we have a couple of quick updates on our Giraffe PRO Cam. We have an amazing video of the camera in action, so we'll let that loop, and then we will come back in.
Let's run the video.
Very cool. It's amazing. I think for so many people, we've talked about this as a concept, and now, you know, it's great to see an actual video of it in action, but also our beta unit. So the beta cameras have now gone out, and we are just weeks away from the full release. The next time we all sit together here on a webinar, it'll be to walk you through exactly how big AI breakthroughs have made this launch possible, and including the impact that they've had on price. And so we will have a full breakdown of pricing and also a practical demo of what capturing with a Pro camera actually looks like. For our existing customers, and we are keeping access open. So contact your customer success team to discuss a pre-order. And for those who still want to be at the front of the line, we still have our amazing pre-order trial offer open, so you can beat the queue and get early access. So a reminder of that offer, which will be available until the 14th of October. You can try Giraffe 360's brand new Pro line from $123 per month for $123 per month. And this includes 5 free listing credits to be used over 60 days. And that's the full suite of content. So that's everything from the amazing virtual tours to the amazing drone videos we've seen in previous webinars, all the way through to that amazing content that Arturs showed us in our listing spotlight platform today as well. So next up, final section of today's webinar, we have our Q&A. As you can see on the screen right now, we have Slido. So if you have any questions, fire them away here. If we don't get to any of the questions today, just due to time constraints, we will make sure to follow up and make sure everybody's questions are answered later down the line. So, Tammy and Eddie, we have some great questions for you guys. So let's get into those. Okay, so on to the Q&A. And so the first question we have today is for you, Tammy. So this one was sent in by one of the watchers of the webinar. And so this question is, Tammy, you mentioned that social media has directly brought you listings, even in the $1 million plus range. Could you share an example of how a single post or a campaign that you built on socials turned into a real client or deal?
So yes, recently I got a listing where their original agent wasn't working out for them, and then she was looking for other options. So she went onto social media, put in the town that her house is located in, and even the county, and I came up in her social media feeds because I tagged that town, I tagged the county, I tagged real estate Massachusetts. So the hashtags really make a difference, but that particular homeowner was searching specifically for someone else to take over and have a social media presence. So I did get a listing for $1.6 million, basically because of my social media presence on Google, on social media in general. So that is a very exciting time, and we're actually going to be closing on that property in a couple weeks.
It's fantastic.
Wow, that's congrats.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's amazing to see how kind of, and we spoke about this in the interview, but the diversity of what you post, and you mentioned, I think, something which I thought was brilliant, is you could be kind of over 15 times that somebody interacts with either you or the property content before they take that next step. And so like the diversity and the quality of the content that you've built and kind of getting not only the property, but also your, like yourself and how you work and kind of like, you know, the Tammy kind of side of it as well has won you listings and helps close deals. So I just think that's absolutely amazing. And Tammy, if you had to give agents a simple kind of one rule to future-proof their marketing for the next couple of years, what would that be?
So I would say be as authentic as you possibly can. If you're comfortable about being in front of a camera, then go live. Go live in your car, go live when you're out on a hike, wherever you are. Either go live or do a video so you can post it later. But a lot of people are not feeling super comfortable. Maybe their hair wasn't right that day or something. So you can easily take a picture or do a video, and you can do a voiceover. So I think if you can feel comfortable with either doing a video, doing a live, or just an abstract video and just talking about the house, doing a voiceover, I think that's really going to help level you up in the social media arena.
Amazing. And one more for you, Tammy. So obviously you work very closely with Eddie as your media content provider. If it wasn't Eddie you were working with and you had to go out to market in a new location and look for a new media partner, what would it be that would drive your decision? What would be the biggest factors in kind of choosing that partner?
I would say that partner would have to have some cutting edge, videography, and kind of making it easy for the agent to get the material up on any social media site, up on MLS, so very easy to upload. I like easy things to just click and post kind of things. So anything that is cutting edge and simple, I love.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Samy. And so, Eddie, next up, a couple of questions for you. So, you've said agents really want a one-stop shop media partner. And so, what's the difference you see between being hired as purely a photographer versus being seen as that trusted media partner?
I think ultimately it's building relationships with agents, just as it is with agents building trust with their clients. I think the agent needs to be able to trust your abilities, the technology that you use, your ability to deliver in a timely manner, and to deliver as many services as they might need. So, as Tammy said, making it easy for an agent to work with you, being able to provide multiple services in order to allow them to be able to send one email or make one phone call and get their floor plans and get their photos and get their aerials and anything else that they might need to promote a listing in themselves.
Amazing. Thank you, Eddie. And another question from a viewer. What advice would you give photographers who want to stand out from maybe kind of competition who are providing lower costs or maybe DIY minded agents? How would you kind of pitch that?
That's a good question. I think that it is getting the right photos, providing the right angles. You know, there isn't a level of artistry to the photography. The technology obviously makes it much easier these days, but we've talked about this before. I think the big thing is when you can provide multiple services and make it really easy for an agent to create their social media with your with what you provide, you'll stand out because you're just simplifying the life for the agent, and that agent should be focused on generating pipeline, getting new listings, working with buyers, and closing deals. So I think it's, it is very competitive. The technologies, including the Giraffe technology, are very simple to use and provide a great output. So I think bringing multiple services to the agent is how you really differentiate. And then obviously you have to have a good eye for the photography and understand lighting and angles and composition. So that's an important factor.
Okay, next questions. So a question we have here, this is such a unique value to real estate agents. How do we price our product? Is it all a kind of all in one, or is it a piecemeal? And it's kind of, it's so many competitors are offering a menu of options. How do we plan to price our product moving forward, Mikus?
Yeah, Giraffe works on a subscription, so camera's a subscription, content studio, and then Spotlight. We're gonna be announcing the new Pro Camera pricing on the 14th or 15th of October. So we will break all down on that webinar, and I think we're gonna keep it quiet until the next announcement. But the Spotlight is in a beta, and in a beta it's a free product. We expect to start charging for the product probably at some point next year, but today it's at beta. It's a free product. As you use Giraffe core subscription for a camera and content studio, the Spotlight comes included.
Amazing. Next question. Agents say social media delivers the highest quality leads. How can tools like Listing Spotlight actually close that gap?
I think it comes down to actually having something to say, and I think that's where many agents struggle today with, is that they think they need to only talk about themselves and film them going to coffee shops and showing the latest and greatest matcha place in the area. And it sounds easy, it's very complex. It's just very energy draining and consuming if you need to kind of be in front of the camera every day. By scanning a property with Giraffe, we create a month worth of content that's relevant, that actually showcases listings, that showcases them in a really good light. You have videos, you have floor plans. In the websites, you have these 3D floor plans. And I argue it's more relevant for the audience, because not every consumer who's looking for a property is looking for the next superstar agent, but they're looking for somebody that works in their area, that markets homes well, that are easy to access. And this is the fundamental solution that Giraffe can do is we have a meaningful content that actually is built around properties, and B, it's scheduled, so you can run month worth of calendar from a single scan.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, Mikus, as well. So some agents, like bread and butter, and where they excel is, as an example, open house. Like, they do an amazing job on the day of an open house, and they convert so much better than other people on the day of an open house. For some agents, it's the prospecting, going out there and winning the instructions in the first place. They've kind of found their rhythm, but it's not good enough nowadays to just rely on like a single place or a single skill set. And it's not good enough either to rely solely on kind of legacy methods of listing. And so where I think the kind of full Giraffe 360 suite, including the listing spotlight, comes into play, is that you can still continue to do what you are best at and the things that you probably enjoy the most, but you can now do that without this kind of nagging feeling that you're neglecting something because of its complexity, right? So a media provider or a Giraffe 360 user is generating all of this content, and all of those contents then become ingredients. And if you're not a chef, you can think, oh, it's very complex for me to get, from this bucket of information or this bucket of content into something which is actually going to drive my business in the right direction. And so what Listing Spotlight adds on top of the complex of the diversity of content is a way for agents to kind of almost cheat code to some degree that social media and follow on kind of content delivery platform. So you're taking that content, and rather than thinking, what do I need to do I need to take this into an editing tool and then add an overlay of text, and what information should I put on there, and okay, I need to remember to do this later down the line when this open house is happening, or when this property has actually been sold, so I can use that for retrospective posting. No, you don't need to think about that, because Giraffe 360 is saying, we've got all of that content, we're now generating a meaningful pipeline for your socials, which will actually do a lot of the work that some of those top agents are doing out there to use social media as a closing tool, as an instruction winning tool. So it is really stopping you neglecting a large element of what will drive success in your business by simplifying it and putting it straight at your fingertips. And I hope that wasn't too long, but I think I do really kind of feel very passionate about the fact that Listing Spotlight has a space to really kind of drive a lot of agents' businesses by getting them using all of the platforms that they can use to kind of grow their market share.
100%. 100%.
Next question. How do we see the Pro Camera changing the way agents think about social media content compared to traditional reliance on kind of legacy tools or traditional media types?
Yeah, the unique thing when we were developing Pro Camera, we always thought about the multi-channel experience. So in the Pro capture flow, we already have baked in requirements that we think will be very important for Instagram experience. For example, the Gaussian splat 3D videos that we showcased before. There is a special capture flow that's required just to capture these Gaussian splats, and so you really get the fully integrated solution. So the camera has it, and you can extrapolate and say that this camera has been designed so you can post a meaningful and highly engaging content on Instagram. And that's a simplification. That's like a more like a punchline, but it's very much true. Like it's and which I think makes it very unique. Where every tool that you look on the market, you need to figure out how it now gonna adapt and gonna compress files or format them for specific platforms, or what are the rules for X, Y, and Z platform. We already are thinking about it on the capture flow level, and then on the AI models, what's the contents being rendered, and then see how it's published. It's all baked in. It's all baked in.
Yeah, I think the other thing with that as well is that, as you said, like the content is designed for multi-channel, and thinking about like the fly-through drone videos, the cinematic videos, they are standout content, right? Like that's not something that you see on every single listing. And so that is something that will capture attention. And some big changes recently, like social media videos appear in search engine results, and that presents some pretty amazing opportunities for those local agents, because if you've got kind of large scale or high intent searches from potential buyers or sellers, and you've got highly engaging content on socials, that's doing a lot of the SEO work for you as well. So it's about making use of everything that's available there to put you and your business like at the forefront of people's kind of search intent. And so I think the fact that we have optimized for multi-channel, it's still going to kind of be amazing on the legacy kind of and the traditional methods of listing, but it's also opening up that whole new world to a lot of agents that was historically inaccessible to them, either because of cost, because of complexity, or because there isn't a media provider in their region that actually provides that kind of level of content and diversity of content. So I think it will be a game changer for those who use it properly, right? Next question. I work in industrial real estate sales, and I would like to implement this tool to make property visualization easier for potential international clients. Is the Giraffe 360 camera capable of capturing large industrial warehouses, and do we have cameras available in Mexico?
All our models are optimized for residential real estate, and so once we exit residential real estate, our systems start to struggle. For example, all the copyright, how the website is created, it already assumes that it's a residential real estate. So the fundamental scanning, the projects gets created, and just the automation level on using that content for marketing is not there yet. So every use case outside of residential real estate needs more tempering, tailoring, and just like more work from that user than somebody who wants to use this for specifically residential real estate marketing, where the automation and integration is the best. But we still deliver from floor planning to 3D experiences, and pretty much you can assume every content that's created, that system generates, will be can be used, can be used.
Amazing. Okay, this is
sorry, and there was a question on Mexico. We're not yet providing. We're not yet shipping to Mexico, so it's Europe and the US.
Amazing. The next question is a great question, as they all have been. But so for photographers, how can we market Listing Spotlight and Giraffe 360 in general to our agent customers?
Samy, do you want to take a crack at it?
Yeah, I would really like to actually. So I think historically, and we've said this in the past, but I think the job of a photographer or a media partner has always ended, or the impact, should I say, rather than the job, the impact has always ended as, when you send the file sharing link, Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever. And it's a case of like, I've done a really good job, here it goes. And historically, you've always been able to differentiate yourself with the quality of the contents that you provide. Like Eddie mentioned earlier, things like the angles, the lighting, and having that eye for property photography and bringing your experience in. But ultimately, that has been where the impact you have on your client stops. And that's where I think the difference between a media partner and kind of a traditional photographer actually lands, because now your impact is something which is continuous, right? Your impact doesn't stop when you send over their files, because once the agent has their files, they're able to generate a social media campaign. Once the agent generates that social media campaign, they're getting listings. Once the agent has generated that social media campaign, they're getting buyer intent, and they're showing up on kind of Google results if they've got higher trending content in their area. So every single day, the agent can look at their business and think, okay, this is an impact that I'm seeing from work that a media partner did for me 2 months ago, and that even goes all the way down to once that property is sold, they're able to maintain kind of the pace on their socials, because you're generating for them a reel that's ready to go in their story to say, hey, amazing, this house just sold, what a beautiful home. They might get a message from that says, hey, this house is amazing. I love your content. If you have anything like this that pops up, please let me know. That's a lead, right? And so historically, it's file share. There's your pictures. Let me know if you want another booking. Now, the impact that you're having as a photographer or media partner is just kind of spiraling over time and is going all the way through that property journey, and ultimately is actually having an impact on the bottom line for the agent. So I think hopefully there's some kind of pitch in there, and the pitch is probably, I now will be able to help you take your business to that next step. I am now more consultant on the entire media approach for your business, rather than just somebody who sends photography over to you. That's a massive differentiator. And as Tammy and Eddie said earlier, it's about kind of the pilot and the mechanics, right? And you now can kind of build that symbiotic relationship, which doesn't stop at takeoff, it continues. So yeah, anything you'd like to add on that, Mikus?
I will just maybe see if I can simplify on a punchlines. Like, I now can provide all real estate media as a single service effectively and help you to unlock social media channel and take your business to the next step. Would be kind of the thinking how I would frame the pitch for the agent.
So obviously everything existing inside the listing spotlight and the property website is fantastic. Do we see a way in the future, I guess a question for Arturs, that we can actually start to make social media content out of those amazing 3D models that we generate, 3D floor plans for homes?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Getting ahead of the roadmap, I see. Yes, it's definitely a good base for new content, and it probably shouldn't be just isolated to the listing spotlight website. It has massive potential outside of that.
Yeah, I think how cool it would be if you can post on one day Gaussian fly-through video. The next day you post a 3D model animation, and the next day it's another kind of a type of a content. It's just like on interactivity, immersiveness. It's hard to go beyond it, because I think we kind of speak about campaigns and automation. It's just like you need to post and you need to be out there as a kind of like as a checkbox. But what we haven't spent time on is the quality of the message, and because you can be posting every day just low quality images and there will be no engagement, no brand building. And it's a complex conversation, because you kind of need to leapfrog between consistency and campaigns and automation, and to kind of what's the message and what's the information, what's the packaging. But maybe that's something that we can close today off on. On the Giraffe product side, we are extremely focused on that packaging, on the quality of experience, and that it's not just as a checkbox, because I think there are tools out there that provides automation as a thing, as a very basic level of posting and information, but we're not talking about it. We're talking about the highest quality of consumer experience, and making that automated. That's the bar, how we approach it. So when you look on our new videos, we showcased one of the last webinars. We now looked on the 3D models. There's nothing that you look on and say, oh, this is like a basic. We're striving for highly engaging, like a ridiculously cool experience is the bar. And how we sometimes market on the product side is we're looking for wow factors. Like what's the wow? A consumer gonna open things and say, oh wow, like this catches my eye, and that's kind of where these immersive contents for us comes in. There's an element of that, but yeah, unless gentlemen, you have anything to add, I think we're good to wrap up.
That was the questions that we had. So I'm aware that we've taken up quite a bit of you guys' day today. So I just want to say again, thank you so much, Tammy and Eddie, for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I appreciate Arturs, you joining and walking us through the model. Samy, thanks for carrying the webinar, and everyone who joined in, appreciate you spending your time. Hope it was valuable. If you have any questions, shoot us a message, find us on any channels, and we'll meet on the webinar 6 very soon, and that will be about the Pro Camera coming out and the first public full release of the Pro Camera. So see you soon. Ciao.